Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes. Santoki, before we even get right into it, let me read out the statement to bookend the show so that everyone knows what this is about. After 224 West Indies appearances, Kieron Pollard has now decided to hang up his international spikes. He said, "After careful deliberation, I have today decided to retire from international cricket. It was a dream of mine to represent the West Indies team from the time I was a boy of 10. And I'm proud to have represented West Indies cricket for over 15 years in both the T20 and ODI forms of the game. Wearing those maroon colours and playing alongside such greats has been a privilege that I never took lightly, giving my heart and soul in every facet of the game, whether bowling, batting or fielding. As with many sports, there are highs and lows, but throughout it all, I've always felt the unwavering support and love of the fans of West Indies cricket who understand the importance of this great sport to the people of the Caribbean. As I move on and make room for those who will carry the game forward in West Indian colours, know that I will always be supporting in whatever way I can. It is with profound gratitude for living my dream that I now raise my bat in salute to all that is West Indies cricket." Santoki,
boy,
news broke. Neither one of us saw it coming. I had no idea. None of my sources had told me it was coming. I was shocked by it, if I'm honest with you. But what were your initial reactions?
Well, first thing was obviously I had COVID during the week, so I thought I was imagining things when I saw Pollard. I thought this is going on. He drinks some water out here. But yeah, no shocks. Obviously, we knew at one point it was coming soon. Within the next 2 years, Pollard was going to retire. You know, age and kind of the nature of the role, but the timing just caught me off guard. Just obviously, we've got a big home schedule coming up, big World Cup in October, ODI World Cup next year. And I'm sure we'll get into it. There's probably a load of reasons that factored into his rationale. I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision for him. But yeah, completely shocked. And this is what we're doing the calling for, just to get everyone's opinion and kind of also salute the legacy of Kieron Pollard for West Indies cricket.
Most definitely. And before we even chop it up properly, people, pinned at the top of the YouTube page should be the link. So if you do want to call in, metaphorically speaking, all you have to do is click the link and then you'll come into our backstage and we will invite you in to have your say and say your piece, etc., etc. Because we're going to try and keep this to time, though, anyone who does come on, we're going to try and have like a 5-minute period so that those who do want to come on. Last time we did this, there were so many people that wanted to come on. It was hard to fit everybody in. So we're going to try and restrict it to 5 minutes to have you say, react to it, so on and so forth. So do click the link. It is pinned to the top. I'll go in the chat in a minute and put it back in the chat again as well. Also, just a bit of admin. Anybody you know who should be watching this, send them the link. Tell them to come in on the live. You can also comment. You don't have to come on live and talk. If you want to put comments in the comments, do so. Press the like button if you haven't already done so. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. There's a super chat option and all of that jazz. But yeah, let's get into it. Big up everyone who's already in the chat as well. Now, Supernova, let's let Supernova start us off. Most likely he was going to be replaced as captain, so he stepped down instead of being sacked. I don't buy that. I'm gonna be oh no, actually, no. Sorry, let me not say it so glib. Someone said to me that it was possible that selectors might have been thinking about replacing Kieron, but surely not in the T20 format. I could understand that argument possibly in the ODI format, given the World Cup is a year away, a year and a bit away for the ODI World Cup. But for the T20s, no. It would make no logical sense to replace Pollard. Sorry, it would make no logical sense behind the scenes to want Pollard to go with less than 6 months to go to a World Cup.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he was under any pressure. I think this was his own decision to step away from the captaincy. Obviously, there were some questions being asked based on results, but I think he had the full backing of selectors and management at Cricket West Indies just because of his experience and what he provided to the team and the younger players in the side. So for me, I personally think obviously, when he took the role in 2019, he couldn't have predicted COVID. He's spent the 90% of his captaincy in COVID bubbles, which has been tough. Obviously, he's got a family and stuff. So I think just the thought of West Indies' schedule is relentless at the moment. We've got series after series starting in May. I just think he weighed it up and thought, you know what, it's going to be too tough for me. Like mentally, I've gone through this 2 years, COVID bubbles. I've got to do it again. And ultimately, that takes precedence over sort of any competitive action going forward. So that's my personal reason as to why he probably would have stepped down. I don't think he would have come under any pressure from selectors in terms of his squad placement.
Do you think IPL played a role in this? And let me pick the words carefully when I say IPL. Not IPL in the sense of, oh, he's got to play IPL, but IPL in the sense of so if we think about our schedule, so this year already we've played Ireland in ODIs, England in the T20s. If you go back, there was a bit of a hectic schedule prior to the World Cup and then straight into another series after that. Do you think just going into the IPL, he's had a bit of mental fatigue? And I'm not saying he's made I don't think he's made a snap judgment. There might even been a bit of him after the World Cup, because obviously the World Cup was awful. There might even have been a bit of him after the World Cup. It was like, do I really want to continue with this and go into another back-to-back World Cup? So I guess what I'm saying, Santoki, is do you think the mental fatigue of going back-to-back in series, culminating in a lean patch in the IPL, just made him wake up one day and go, you know what? Let's just do it now.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think if it was a snap decision, he would have made it straight after the India series. He would have been like, you know what, I'm done. The fact that it's come a few weeks later means he's obviously weighed it up. And I think in his head, he's realised there's no point playing the Netherlands tour, Pakistan tour, then deciding to quit or quitting in the middle of the summer. You either quit now or see it through. I think that would be his mentality. You either do the job or you don't. So he's just gone prematurely before the Netherlands tour and thought, you know what, this will give time for a new person to step in and also allow the team to kind of develop over the next 6 months. So I think he's carefully considered it. And as you said, IPL, it's a long and tough bubble. So I think that would have also played a part in just kind of showing him how tiring the next few months would be.
We've got someone backstage. Mr. Lover's backstage, but I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting for his. I don't know if he's ready. Mr. Love, if you're ready, type in and tell me and let me know if you're ready, because I saw your camera and then it just disappeared. So I don't know if you've got Santoki's Wi-Fi out here. I don't know what's going on. So just let me know. Wave in the background or whatever it might be to let me know if you're ready or two in the chat. But whilst we wait for Mr. Lover, Kurt makes a good point. He says Pooran as the next captain in one days and T20s, but the question is, who will be vice captain? Now, let's just touch on that. Yeah, Mr. Lover's ready. Before I bring him in, let's just touch on Pooran briefly, Santoki, because what would have made Pollard's decision easier is that Pooran's basically been ready for a while. Well, depends how we want to define ready, but Pooran's been captaining in Pollard's absence. He captained in Pakistan. He captained versus Australia last year. It's been very clear to the West Indian fan base that Pooran is kind of the heir apparent. So part of Pollard's decision would have been the knowing in the back of his head, Pooran's kind of ready for this. It makes it easier to step down from a T20 perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he's left West Indies in the lurch. We've obviously got an heir apparent in Pooran. And I think, as you said, Mashal, he's shown in the Pakistan series, he stepped in for a few games against England and India. He's shown he's got those leadership qualities. And so for me, I think Pollard would have had 100% confidence. Obviously, he knows Pooran very well, that Pooran can step into the role. So that would have made his decision a lot easier rather than if there was no obvious candidate to take over before the World Cup.
I'm going to come back to the vice captain question just because I know Mr. Lover's in the background. So let's go to him and let's see what he's saying. And Kurt, we'll come back to that vice captain question in a bit. Let's bring on Mr. Lover. 1 second. Yes, Mr. Lover, on mute. Oh, you've unmuted yourself.
Oh,
yes, Mr. Lover. Look at the blue sunglasses, you know.
Hey, Mr. Lover, who are you on the run from?
Hey, anyhow, I'm sorry. I'm going to make it short and sweet. I want to say congratulations to Mr. Kieron Pollard on his retirement. All the best, my brother. Thank you for your service and good luck. And Pooran for captain.
Who for vice captain, Mr. Lover?
Hetmyer or Joseph.
Interesting. Okay. Mr. Lover said he's keeping it short and sweet, you know. Santoki, your boy, Mr. Lover. What? Mr. Lover's done. That was quick. Thank you, Mr. Lover. In and out, you know. Santoki, Hetmyer, vice captain. Obviously, there's the whole fitness issues with Hetmyer. Hetmyer's having a good IPL to give him his due. In that finisher role, we could do another video about Hetmyer as a finisher instead of batting 3 or 4, but that's another video for another time. Would you, Santoki, recall Shimron Hetmyer and deliberately give him responsibility as a way to make him take West Indies duties seriously?
Yeah, I think at this point for me, Hetmyer, you make him vice captain. He's worked with Pooran and Amazon Warriors in that senior setup. So for me, I think Hetmyer is someone who, he's been captain at under 19 level. He knows what's needed. He's got the leadership qualities. It's just bringing out of him. So I think he'll thrive and prosper in a vice captaincy role. And also now with the GOAT generation gone, Gale, Bravo, Russell doesn't play, Pollard's gone. Hetmyer is basically one of the senior players in the squad, so I think he'll rise to that occasion personally.
And we assume in CPL this year, we have to assume, surely they're going to let Hetmyer captain Guyana this year. Surely they're not going to give it to an overseas player. Even though this isn't about Pollard, let's just quickly touch on that. Do you reckon he's getting the captaincy this year?
I think he has to. I know obviously CPL is not affiliated directly with Cricket West Indies in that way, but I think just for the benefit of the West Indian side, and I think Hetmyer is ready for it as well. If he can't captain Guyana Amazon Warriors, what is that saying about his credentials for the West Indies vice captaincy? So I think he's the obvious candidate, and I do think we'll see him captaining Guyana Amazon Warriors.
And this is in here. Yeah, so actually 2 different points. So V-Man first. Fully expect Pooran to lead 50 overs and T20, but wouldn't be surprised if Hope isn't made the vice captain. We got to talk on this. And then Supernova says Shai Hope was supposed to captain versus India in the ODIs, but didn't, and Pooran took over. So what's the point of Shai being vice captain? Yes, but there are some legitimate questions about Shai's role. All the way up until India, everyone was under the impression that Shai is going to take over the ODI captaincy, Pooran's going to take over the T20 captaincy, and then Pooran captained some ODIs. West Indies have not made it clear yet what's going to be happening with the ODI captaincy. And Santoki, you and I were talking about this the other day. This now means that we have no captain for the Netherlands, right? Yeah. So if Pooran is made the captain, but he's in IPL, what? So
listen, Chandrapur Hemraj out here leading the West Indies,
Now, Shai Hope is not in the IPL. So to me, the logical thing to do is just let Shai Hope take the ODI captaincy, let him do it in the Netherlands, and then let him do it going forward from there. But are you fussed, Santoki, on the idea of split captaincies in white ball? Do you think it should just be one person, ideally, who's leading both?
I'm open to both. It'd be interesting. Actually, people who are tuned in, if you comment, but if you can put in the comments, what do you think is better, having separate captains for ODI and T20s, or do you think it's just better to have it under one person? I guess in this case, I wouldn't be opposed to Shai Hope focusing on ODI captaincy, and that leaves Pooran to just focus on the T20s and the World Cup coming up. But I think realistically, they'll give both to Pooran just for that sort of consistency across both sides.
So good point from Shane, who says Rovman. Yes, we have to remember Rovman has captained the West Indies before. I think it was in Bangladesh in 2018. He surprisingly captained the West Indies. Remember, he captains the Talawars. He captains the Scorpions in 50-over cricket. So there is a shout and an argument to say that Rovman could actually be the vice captain in the T20 side. Whether he gets picked in an ODI side or not, Rovman is clearly seen as somebody with captaincy ability. And then Chatil says, Holder. No, absolutely not. No, I'm not having.
Well, you say that. You know what? You say that, but Holder's name was coming up a lot on social media when Pollard stepped down. So there are a lot of people who do think Holder would be the obvious choice to step in. But my personal view is obviously we're past that era. It'd be a step backwards. But Mash, I know you'll have a lot to say on that.
Just why? Forget whether I want him to. Why would he want to? You like that? That part of his career is done. Yeah. Obviously, if somebody if Cricket West Indies administrators turn around to Jason and say, "Listen, we need you to step into the breach," due to the nature of who Jason is, he'd probably say yes. But he shouldn't want to do it. He's been there. He's done that, and at length. He should just enjoy, as he clearly is, just enjoy and be being a player. And if anything, for the mere fact, Santoki, that people are even mentioning Holder's name shows that all the people who wanted the experienced T20 players out of the side, this is what we get now. You put a tweet up the other day, Santoki. Our most experienced players in terms of age now is Evan Lewis and Jason Holder. Like, as much as people wanted to see Gale gone, Bravo gone, Pollard gone, Russell gone, Narayan gone, etc. You take out all of that experience all at the same time, and you're left with the situation we're currently in now, where it's like, well, who does what now? Well, this is the situation, isn't it? And I just wouldn't put it on Holder's shoulders personally.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think you make a good point about the lack of experience. I think IPL is a higher quality than you would find in an International World Cup. And we've seen OD and Romario, they've struggled at a high level to get that consistency. Whereas someone like Russell, who's been cussed out in the region, he's still performing in the IPL. He's still performing. It takes a lot to raise yourself to be consistent at that top level. So I think we're going to get a harsh lesson at the World Cup in Australia about how just inexperienced this side is. But it is what it is. That's the composition of what we've got available at the moment, Mash.
Dino's in the background, and this is where I do agree. So the reason why I'm saying Holder shouldn't have it or want it is because he's there anyway. Yeah. Like, whoever captains the side, Holder's gonna be there. So I don't think you need to give Holder the captaincy. That whoever, like Pooran, can lean on his help. Whoever takes the ODI captaincy can lean on his help as well. O'Shane is in the background. I'm going to come to you, O'Shane. If you turn your camera on and give me a wave to let me know if you're ready, or put it in the chat, then I'll bring you on. But I thought I should just read out some stats because I think some people, Santoki, and we can maybe come to this after O'Shane's made his point. I think some people have, how do I phrase this now? I think some people have deliberately skewered Pollard as if he never did anything, right? So I thought before we do the show, I was like, let me just actually go and pull the raw stats, because people love to say that Pollard's contributed nothing to West Indies cricket. Now, first things first, he's played 224 international matches. That's no mean feat, right? But I wanted to focus on what he's done. Shane's ready. I'm coming to him. Shane, I'm coming to you. I wanted to focus on what he's done since he became captain. So in ODI cricket, with the bat, his career average was 26. That is subpar. We know it is. But as captain, his average rose to 28. I'm not saying that's brilliant. I'm just giving people the stats. And with the ball, he took wickets at 41. That can come under scrutiny, and I'm willing for that to come under scrutiny. But we know that our ODI cricket is a mess. Pollard is Pollard is not the biggest issue within our ODI cricket. T20s, internationals, Pollard's average over his career with the bat, 25, with the ball, 28. As captain, 33 with the bat, 25 with the ball. Now, let's just focus specifically on T20s. I cannot understand, Santoki. Let me say those numbers again. Career in T20 internationals, 25 with the bat, 28 with the ball. As captain, 33 with the bat, 25 with the ball. And Santoki, I had people legitimately saying to me, good riddance, Pollard's gone. Talk me through it and make it make sense how these people, I'm adamant, don't understand cricket, B, have got their mind twisted with this whole mercenary thing with Pollard and all of those kind of players, or C, have never bothered to actually look at what Pollard's done. They've just forced they've created their opinion without actually looking at what he's actually done. So, and then kind of molded whatever they can to their particular narrative. Because those stats in T20 internationals, how could you dare throw that away? How could you throw that away and go, yeah, good, we don't need him in the team anyway? Yeah, Michael says it's because the fans are perpetually on ganja, Santos. Well, I don't know.
I think it's a lot of what you alluded to, Mash. But I think the main thing will be the mercenary idea. This idea that he led a cohort of players who kind of abandoned the West Indies, quote unquote, to kind of play franchise leagues. Which, as you said, the amount of caps he's got proves it isn't the case. And I think also it's just the fact that he was a very confident player. Like for some reason in the region, we don't like our players to be too confident in a Chris Gale, Kieron Pollard thing, which is why those guys don't get the respect. But, someone like Jason Holder, who kind of acts as you would in a quote unquote gentleman's game or shy hope. They kind of get the love of West Indian fans. So I think it's partly to do with that. But I also think as well, Mash, with T20s, especially internationals, it's judged on sort of World Cup performances generally, because that's the main context. And Pollard, unfortunately, for various reasons, he missed 2014, he missed 2016. Last year, obviously, was disappointing. So obviously, he won the World Cup in 2012, which was 10 years ago. But if you think since then, he's never played in World Cups or had World Cup moments. And I think that's why a lot of fans, in terms of T20s, don't really judge him on as having a great record, because he hasn't got that World Cup legacy as such.
I better just 1 second before we address that. And O'Shane just sent you a message. 1 minute, just quickly, because Fred, thank you very much for the super chat. Fred says T20 internationals, Pooran, captain, Hetmyer, vice captain, ODIs. Are you saying we mix it between Pooran and Hope, and Joseph, vice captain? Interesting.
Joseph.
Personally, give Pooran over Hope so that Hope can just focus on his batting. I hear that.
Yeah.
And Hetmyer's got to come good. Oh, you're at work, Fred. Thank you for jumping in and out, though, Fred. Appreciate the comments. It's interesting. That's the second time I've heard someone say Joseph to be part of the leadership cadre. I'm not sure Alzari. No, certainly no. He has in ODI. I don't know if Alzari's game is where he wants it to necessarily be to suddenly give him captaincy or vice captaincy responsibility. But I hear your point there, Fred, and that possibly links into Sachin's point that, are we really doing succession planning? 26-year-old Pooran to captain the side with no seniors. But it is what it is, you know. I mean, we knew that Pooran was going to take over at some point. And maybe, Santogi, this just goes back to our point that we actually had a golden era of T20s, and people maybe have underestimated how golden that era was. And it just means that they've all, kind of like Spain in football, they've all gone at the same time. So you can't replicate that immediately. We're now gonna have to not struggle, but it's not gonna be easy to go back to the top of the mountain.
I think the Spain one's an accurate comparison. I think when you have a golden era, part of the problem is you don't drop any of those players. They play for a long, long time, and you don't manage to bring in anyone else because you want to have the success that this cohort is bringing. So we've seen 5-6 of greatest of all time in the format play together for 10, 12 years, and now they're all pretty much leaving at the same time. So we basically, like Spain in 2014, we haven't got anyone to sort of. We've got Pooran and Hetmyer, but no one legitimately who can kind of fill in. And okay, we got O'Shane here. Oh,
O'Shane,
good afternoon.
With you.
Good afternoon.
Lovely. How you doing, O'Shane? Where are you based? Where are you coming from? Where you speaking from?
In Montego Bay, Jamaica.
Lovely.
Yeah, man, representing the yard same way.
Come through, O'Shane. Talk what you want to talk.
All right, so basically I'm saying that this move from Pollard is one from left field, really and truly, because I believe that he still had more to offer in the cricket, and I don't believe that Pooran is ready as yet, because he still has to work on his game, because his consistency is not there where it should be, right? Same with Hetmyer and all of the batting lineup, right? So they have a bit more responsibility while trying to find a consistency. So it leaves us in a sticky situation right now, right? Because we know that Pooran more than likely will get the job in both formats, right? Because in ODI, I believe that Hope is a bit too relaxed. He's not proactive. I don't want another Jason Holder leading the team, right? You wait till something happen and then you try react then. So I believe that Pollard should have stayed on until after the World Cup at least.
Oh, Shane, why do you think he's gone now, though?
To be honest, I believe that it was more of the pressure, right? Because Facebook groups that I've been in, right, every single day is a new Pollard situation, right? They wanted it, he said, from the moment he got the job, right? They have him as this bad guy for West Indies cricket, and honestly, he was the captain that West Indies needed, right? He brings aggression, right? And that's a step up from what Holder brought us. Holder was too relaxed, right? And Pollard had the foresight. He might have not been the gentleman that they wanted, but he had the right characteristics of a leader that we needed in the moment. Even though he failed at the World Cup, it wasn't on him per se, but that added to the pressure that he was under. And I believe that also affected his current game right now with the pressure which is on his shoulder.
I hear that still, you know, and so then I guess using your argument, this goes back to something we said earlier on, which fundamentally, mentally, he may have just had enough now, and he said, you know what, I think Santoki said earlier on, if he knows he can't mentally get himself in the game for West Indies with a packed schedule coming up, step away now rather than just go through the motions.
Yes, because the psychological aspect of sport is very important, right? And if you're lacking the psychological aspect, you're not going to perform to the level which you can, right? So I believe that's the reason for all of this. And it shows even in his current performances right now in IPL. He hasn't been able to be on the ball all season in IPL.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree with that. Santoki, anything?
Oh, Shane, I was going to say, so kind of Pollard's been captain since 2019. How would you kind of rate his contributions to the West Indies side? Or throughout his career, what would you say? Would you say he's had a successful contribution to West Indies cricket?
Well, per se, that would be a mixed bag, because you remember the issues with Cameron, so he was in and out of the team, right? So he could have done more for West Indies cricket, right? But he came back and tried his best after Cameron left, and I have to applaud him for that. So I would rate him probably a 6.5 out of 10, right? Because he has a decent win percentage as ODI skipper, better than Sammy, better than Bravo, and better than Holder for sure, right? I think he's at 54% win ratio as ODI captain. So he did well, and also he helped in the 2012 World Cup win. So he did well, right?
Yeah. I have to agree with you on that. Listen, O'Shane, thank you for coming on, yeah?
All right, thanks for having me.
Much appreciated. Yes, bless. Let's pick up some points there, Santoki.
Yeah, go on.
From what O'Shane said there, because I think there were some valid points being made there. The win percentage for a start. So I wonder, Santoki, and I think we put this on Twitter, put on Instagram, etc. Holder's win percentage is better than all the preceding captains, most recent preceding captains, right? I just think, this is my personal view, that Pollard, because he wasn't a universally accepted captaincy choice amongst the fan base, because people have decided he's a mercenary, they held him up to higher standards than they would have any other captain. That's my personal opinion, that for some reason, Pollard was almost treated as if like how it's almost like sports fandom, like 2022 sports fandom. Anytime you lose, it's a crisis. His captaincy was held up to standards up here after 4 years of us not winning any ODI game, any ODI series anywhere in the world. Somehow his captaincy was held up as if we had to start beating everybody. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's that victim of kind of, as you said, elite stars kind of being held up to high aspects. And obviously he wasn't in the white ball side when he came in as captain, was he? So he was kind of dropped in, and because he was kind of separated from the Holder era, he was kind of expected he would transform the whole team regardless, because he is Kieron Pollard. So in one way, it's a compliment to him that people held him in such high regard. But then it's also the reason why when things didn't go as people expected, the cuss out was mad.
Yeah, no, for real. Chatil makes a point that you spoke about, the 100 contract. So when was this? So the 100 draft happened about, I can't remember now, or the announcement.
Beginning of the month, April the 4th.
Beginning of the month, that's it. And I remember that Pollard was like highlighted as, this is the number one pick he was the number one pick in the draft. And obviously there were loads of news columns about it. And in fairness, I tweeted at the time saying, well, obviously he's not playing the 100. That don't make any sense, because we're due to play India in ODIs and T20s. New Zealand are due to come to Jamaica actually to play some white ball cricket. It's like, surely Pollard can't be playing. Why would you have put his name in the draft? And then Santoki, you started speaking out. Maybe that almost fits into the whole reason behind him giving up. Like, maybe everyone knew that he was already. Did you?
Yeah, I think I think this is kind of alludes to what you said, Mash, about it not being a rash decision that he suddenly made this week. It obviously would have been communicated to the franchise, London Spirit in the 100, that Pollard would be available for the full summer. So his agent, his kind of management team, those behind closed doors would obviously have known for probably about a month or more now that Pollard was going to retire. It's just he chose now. I don't know why, but he chose now this week to kind of make it public. But it obviously was something that had been planned for a few weeks now.
Yeah, and he's going to be with London Spirit. So, of course, we're going to try, and if we can, get some time with Kieron. We can't promise you anything, people, but we're certainly going to try because he's going to be around the corner, so to speak.
We're gonna try help Pooran's captaincy as well and go to the Oval and try and convince Narayan to jump back in the maroon.
This is a good point from O'Shane, actually, re-CPL. So I think Pooran's going to captain TKR this year. And again, although you said, Santoki, the franchises don't owe West Indies cricket anything, surely Pollard would stand aside and say, let Pooran captain.
Yeah, I think Pollard, he's won it all with TKR. And like, what else does he have to prove now? I think obviously he'll probably enjoy as well playing for them without having the burden of captaincy. And I think Pooran has more to gain. So I think Pollard, as a good friend of Pooran as well, and knowing Pooran's capabilities, I think he'll just step aside and say, you know what, Pooran, you take over.
What does this do for... So let's say it is Pooran, and most of you in the chat, sorry, Verdad saying finally catch the show live. I'm enjoying it. Yes, big up, Verdad. This is your first time watching us live. Big up, and thank you everyone for the support. Anyone who's in it watching live at the moment, you can put your comments in, so on and so forth. If you want to come on and say something with us, just click the link. I'll put the link in the chat, click it, etc. But here's a interesting argument, Santoki. If Pooran does take the ODI and T20 captaincy, I think that makes his likelihood of playing Test cricket almost non-existent. Do you follow where I'm coming from here?
Yeah,
because to give him, and everyone in the chat is saying give it to Pooran for both. Okay, cool. If you give a 26-year-old the captaincy of the ODI and the T20 team, which is a lot of responsibility for someone, and O'Shane said it when he came on, Pooran's game, obviously Pooran's superb talent, but his game in West Indian colours probably isn't where he wants it to be yet in terms of consistency. If I was given the captaincy at 26 like Nicholas Pooran, I'd probably turn around to Desmond Haynes and say, you know what? I think white ball's my focus now only because this is a lot to take on board.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't think personally we'll see Pooran playing Test cricket probably ever. I just think, as you said, the captaincy, it's a lot to take on. You'll want to give your best as captain of the side. So I reckon he'll focus on white ball for the immediate future. Obviously, he's 26. So even if he spends 2-3 years on white ball cricket, that basically takes him out of his peak coming into test cricket. And also, like when I spoke to him as well for the interview I did, he even alluded his conversation with Desmond Haynes was a very quick one. So it wasn't as if they've had in-depth details about plotting out his return to Test cricket. It seemed like he maybe could be open to it in the future, but I personally don't think it's on the horizon for him.
Adrian says if Pooran was going to play Test, he would have done so already. And I'm of that same belief. I was going back and forth on Twitter with a few people yesterday and today that if anybody thinks, so Gale's gone now, DJ's gone, Pollard's gone, Russell and Narayan are all but gone. I keep trying to say to people, if anybody thinks that those 5 were mercenaries and that's now the end of the mercenary era, I don't even agree with the term mercenary, but if anybody thinks that's the end of it, the next generation look up to these guys. You don't think the next generation of talent, look at Shafane Rutherford. Shafane Rutherford barely plays for West Indies, if ever. You don't think the next generation of guys don't want to also go and make their peas as well and eat food?
Also, if we look specifically at Pooran, he's someone who ironically became a franchise cricketer because Cricket West Indies had essentially blacklisted him for a period and he had to go and play in any franchise tournament he could. So I think his own history with admin and the board means he's gonna play franchise cricket because he knows how easy an international contract or career can get taken away. So as Mash said, I think this is just the start. We'll see. It's the nature of modern cricket. We'll see more and more players go after franchise cricket as franchise cricket around the world becomes more lucrative and takes up more of the calendar.
Yeah, basically either boards like Cricket West Indies think outside the box and just say, you know what, we accept that you're not going to be able to play much red ball cricket because of the nature of the cricket calendar. We're just going to pick you for test matches or whatever. Or they don't do that and they just decide that some players in the Caribbean are red ball, like Craig Brathwaite. Some players in the Caribbean are just going to be red ball cricketers because they don't have the game to adapt to this T20 calendar, which is unlikely, Santoki, because why would you, as a youngster coming up now in the Caribbean, not want to jump into the T20 bag? Why would you solely pursue to be a Craig Brathwaite? It's not with no disrespect to Craig Brathwaite, but why would you solely pursue being a red ball legend? I don't. As much as everybody wants to say Test cricket is the pinnacle, and okay, it is, but it's not the pinnacle for the bag.
But also, we're saying it as people who would have grown up when Test cricket was the pinnacle. If you're 18, 19, you would have spent your whole life with IPL being the pinnacle or T20 cricket having that same legacy. So I think for the younger generation, they won't necessarily see Test cricket as much higher than T20 cricket, realistically, from their perspective. It's just we're looking at it from a generation who watched cricket before T20 existed. But I think realistically, it's going to be hard to convince people to pigeonhole themselves into red ball cricket when there's no financial gain, and also that idea of it being a sporting pinnacle won't be there either. So what would be the motivation to pigeon yourself in? There's money in county cricket, but if we're talking about English county cricket, there's only 2 overseas spots per squad. You've got to be multi-format as well. Generally, they take multi-format players. So I don't think it's an option, realistic options for most West Indian players.
Yeah, exactly. So, it is what it is. Go on, Sandro.
And also, like O'Shane's put a comment in saying Pujara of West Indies cricket. Even Pujara got the IPL bag. He played for Chennai for a few seasons or whatever. So Craig Brathwaite I think he's the only player with over 50 test caps to never play a T20 match in his career. I think Craig Brathwaite's an anomaly, like one of a kind. I don't think he's a trend of red ball players, modern red ball players.
Dino and yeah, no, but it's true though. I actually think Dino's right. I mean, if I don't know if anybody, I know Dino's noticed it, but I don't know if it depends on how in depth people have been paying attention to domestic West Indies cricket. There are a number of players, Santoki, who are increasingly going over to the States to go play cricket because I think they see that as a better way to make money. 2, they might even see it as a more professional setup than playing within their particular country. So listen, I would argue some players would prefer to play in America than get selected for their particular regional side. Listen,
but also, it's weird. West Indies is weird as well because if you're Guyanese or Jamaican, CPL is a chance to play for your actual nation, whereas obviously West Indies is a unified thing. So there's also that aspect as well. But Mash, we got any more callers, or is that it? We got one time for one more caller.
Yeah. People come. Oh, let me put the link back in. Right, people. I'm going to put the link back into the chat again. You're welcome. No, people probably don't want to show their face. You can do what old Shane did, just don't turn your camera on. 1 second, let me just put the link. So I'm just putting the link back into the chat. I'm surprised Dino didn't click it. Links in the chat, people. So if anybody does want to come on, now's the time.
We got time for one more guest, guys. So if you want to come on, it's now or never. Click the link, join in. Mash will let someone in.
For real. So let's. I mean, ultimately, 1 second. Let me. Sorry, people. I got that chest infection, or something like that. But let's talk legacy then. Santoki, because this is about Pollard ultimately. 224 matches for West Indies. How will, and everyone if you're not going to come on live, people, and talk, which is fine. If you want to put the comments in the chat, that's obviously fine as well. What is Kieron Pollard's legacy then in West Indies cricket? And this is actually a big question, though. Somebody's about to listen to this and steal this as an article idea. But what is Pollard's legacy in West Indies cricket? Because some people would have you believe that the man did nothing for West Indies cricket and he's a forgettable figure in West Indies cricket. But I think there's a lot to say about Pollard's legacy. But Santoki, I'll let you go in first.
Well, I think firstly, in terms of world cricket, what Kieron Pollard's done in terms of defining that finisher role, evolving it, showing what is possible in T20 cricket as a finisher, his sort of boot hitting, power hitting, also his bowling as well added onto that. His kind of all-rounding capabilities and captaincy. I think for world cricket, he's been a massive benefit for T20 cricket. And specifically, if you filtered it down to West Indies cricket, we saw it in a video montage with, Pooran, Romario, Shepherd, all the youngsters coming through. What an inspiration Pollard is, whether it be in West Indies colours or IPL or franchise cricket. Just the way he played as a West Indian and showed what was possible would have been an inspiration for a whole generation of players, even up till now. So I think his legacy for West Indian cricket would be to inspire the next generation with how he kind of innovated in the format and kind of showed how you didn't necessarily need to play Test cricket to kind of ensure a livelihood. There were other avenues to not only cement a legacy in cricket, but also kind of financially secure yourself. So I think in terms of inspiring the next generation and creating a pathway, I think that's probably his greatest kind of contribution to the game, just showing the next generation how you can do it in a not a typical way, in an unorthodox way.
You see how Kenny Brown said he did nothing,
Oh my God. Kenny wasn't. But I think Dino said in the last.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
There was no rationale behind that. If you'd have backed it with a point, I would argue. But man just said he did not.
Yeah, for real. The people who genuinely think Pollard's done nothing, please tell me what you mean when you say he's done nothing. And I'm gonna throw in a point that people don't even realize. And I don't know if Dino will add a bit more to it in the chat. So Josh De Silva, when he came to England, I don't know if people realise that the way he got to England when he came to come and play club cricket for old Wimbledonians was because he did that through Kieron Pollard's foundation. That was the only reason he got over here. So all these people are kind of like, Pollard's done nothing for cricket. You don't think somebody like a De Silva doesn't look to Kieron Pollard as almost like a father figure and say, you know what, you helped me on my journey. If it's not for that, I don't go to England. I don't get experience of better cricketing facilities, and I don't come back to Trinidad and slowly but surely make my way up into national and then international colours for the West Indies. So I think people's mindset is too narrow if they think that people like Pollard aren't seen as what we call kind of like forebearers for the modern generation. I think we get too caught up in this idea of being great in West Indies cricket is what everyone did in the 70s and the 80s. Yes, we know we're unbeaten, and that's not to say that we don't respect that. We know that story. But for the modern era, time moves on and time changes. And I think people are naive if they think that the current generation that have grown up don't look up to the Chris Gells, don't look up to the DJ Bravos, don't look up to the people like Kieron Pollard and say, you know what? There's other ways to succeed in cricket and be part of West Indies cricket at the same time. And I'm not saying that Pollard was without his flaws. He had some. But you also have to remember with players like Pollard, they were playing at a time. Remember when Dave Cameron was Cricket West Indies president and involved in Cricket West Indies, Pollard was playing at a time where West Indies administration did not want him around. And this is why I think some fans think that Pollard is this kind of evil figure, because if you remember how the media and Cricket West Indies themselves portrayed players like Pollard, they made it out as if those guys wanted nothing to do with West Indies cricket. If Kieron Pollard wanted nothing to do with West Indies cricket, why did he come back in 2019? He didn't have to. He could have just stayed on the franchise circuit making his peas. He came back in 2019, started foregoing. Yes, you lot are going to say, because he'd already made his money, but he didn't have to come back. In 2019. So unfortunately, I think part of Pollard's legacy as well is, as much as he's seen as this T20 great on the franchise circuit, he unfortunately played in an era where Cricket West Indies was more interested in fighting the players than working with the players, and this has affected how we look at, not me, but how some people look at people like Kieron Pollard. There's someone in the background, Jonathan. Jonathan looks like he's going to be our last person to come on. Jonathan, if you just message in private chat because it says your device isn't connected. So I don't know if you're there or not. Message me and let me know when you're ready to come on, and we'll come and do you.
All right, Jonathan will be our last guest, and then we'll wrap it up. But I think, Mash, you articulated that really well. I think you kind of summed up kind of Pollard, the complexity of fandom in the region, sort of the general narrative, what was told against Pollard being a mercenary with this bunch of players, compared to what he actually has contributed to West Indies cricket, which a lot of people don't appreciate. As we said, even in the comments, they said the young player Joshua James is currently benefiting from the Kieron Pollard scholarship. So his effect in the region will still go on even once he's retired, because I'd imagine this scholarship will go on as a long-term thing as well.
So Jonathan's ready, people. So we're just going to bring Jonathan on for our final guest. Santoki, what you say? The guy needs hate Pollard, yeah? Is that what it's?
I've never heard of a guy. To be fair, I've never heard of a guy and he's hating Pollard, really. There's obviously you got the Trini guy and he's banter, but I don't think he's ever spread to genuine dislike of Pollard.
Well, someone guy needs to come on. But let me bring Jonathan on. Jonathan, are you there?
Hi, guys. Thank you for letting me join your show today.
Jonathan, it sounds like you're in the UK. Where are you coming from?
I'm actually living in Qatar. I'm from the UK originally, but I live in Qatar. But never miss a minute of West Indies cricket. So, yeah, very happy to see that a show has been produced talking about something that myself and my dad always speak about. So, thank you guys for your amazing show.
It's Qatar, you know. What are you doing? Building World Cup stadiums? What's going on?
I wish. No, I'm a teacher in Qatar, but yeah, I will be going to the World Cup this year. So, yeah, lots of things to look forward to.
Thank you for coming on, Jonathan. Speak what you want to speak, though, man.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys a question. So for the last 10 years, I've noticed that with the West Indies setup, you've got players like Pooran, you've got Pollard, who myself and my dad debated for a long time, should have played Test cricket. Do you think that's affecting us across the platform, as the fact that players are not having that exposure to Test cricket, ODI cricket, and 2020?
Go on, Santoki. I'll let you take that.
Do you mean, when you say T20, do you mean like for international level or across like franchises and stuff?
At an international level. So, for example, Joe Root plays in all three formats, and you can tell with his batting, it's improved. His batting average has increased. I look at someone like Darren Bravo, who's a Test cricket player. He played in the 2020s and actually didn't work out well. Same with Roston Chase, because they're so one-dimensional, I would say. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think it's something Ian Bishop always says on commentary on TV. To get a fundamental grounding, you need to play first-class cricket. Unfortunately, for players like Pooran or modern-day West Indies cricket, it's how do you play first-class cricket? Because the financial opportunities aren't there compared to, franchise cricket, which is relentless throughout the year. So it's about, for me, I agree with what you said. I think red ball cricket helps a player, even in T20 format, because it gives you that grounding. But it's about sort of how you play first-class cricket, what opportunities are there when you weigh up the financial implications of it.
Okay. Another thing I've noticed, obviously, we've got one of the worst run rates in ODI and 2020 cricket, even though we say that we have specialists. What do you attribute that to?
I'm going to answer that one. Santoki's camera has gone. That means his Wi-Fi must be playing up. I was wondering if we'd get through an entire episode without Santoki's Wi-Fi playing up. But let me jump in. Thanks for the question, Jonathan. So they just had, funnily enough, Cricket West Indies have just come off the back. Santoki, what happened to your Wi-Fi?
I had to go fix it, man. Just jump on the roof quickly. Get that sorted out.
But yeah, Jonathan, Cricket West Indies have just run a white ball camp. For that specific reason about things like strike rotation. We historically have been pathetic when it comes to just taking singles in ODI cricket. T20s, you can argue you don't need to as much, but they're doing white ball camps to specifically work on it. But what I would say, Jonathan, is that type of issue doesn't just happen at international cricket. That's got to be something which has taken root in the regional, in regional cricket, and that goes back to I'm trying to think who said this. I had Dr. Kishore Shallow was our last episode on the podcast, and he said, I said to him, if you could only pick one thing to fix in West Indies cricket, which would have the best impact on cricket, what would it be? And he said coaching, and I make him right, because he says until you can get high quality coaching at all levels of cricket throughout the Caribbean, we're going to continue to run into the same problems, and we're going to continue to have conversations like this, Jonathan, where we're saying, why can't they rotate strike at the international level? I would argue because the coaching is not good enough, but not necessarily at the international level. They've come to international level with those problems, and then we're asking international coaches to fix it in a 1 week camp before a test match, or before an ODI series, or whatever it might be. So, unfortunately, Jonathan, I think in terms of fixing it, we've got to look strategically, which is what they're trying to do with the coaching program now, and kind of roll it out so that more and more people in West Indies cricket can get level 2, level 3 coaching, etc. But the problem with that, Jonathan, is that bears fruit 3 to 5 to 7 years from now. And unfortunately, the West Indian fan base, they ain't waiting 3 to 7 years.
Waited 20 years already.
So that's the kind of the catch-22 that we're in that the fan base aren't patient enough to accept that meaningful change is going to take a long time to come. So every defeat has to be a cuss out, regardless of the situation.
It's true. I mean, I was watching the England series recently, and obviously Bonner scored 100, Blackwood scored 100. I think Brathwaite also did. But looking at how long it took for them to score 100 in comparison to like Stokes and Crawley, who actually pushed on the run rate, and for me, it's like they've got some phenomenal technique, but it's like it's inviting pressure, because after 50 overs, we're still 102 for 4, and it's like, actually, let's push it on a little bit. Let's be 176 for 4, and at least try and get some runs on the board. So I think that's what's been one of the problems, and I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that these players are so one-dimensional. Even when you look at their bats, the English players are looking for singles. They're twisting the bat, whereas they're just straight bat. I mean, Brooks. What do you guys think about Brooks? I think it's time that he goes and is replaced by Hetmyer. He just hogs up balls, even in ODI cricket.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
Yeah, I agree, man. Jonathan, are you Guyanese?
Dominican originally.
Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that. Though. Hetmyer for Brooks, Mash. What are you saying?
Yeah.
Listen, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what the next Test match squad looks like for the Bangladesh are the next ones to turn up. I think in the start of June-ish, or maybe near the end of June. Can't remember where exactly in June. And by then we should have played 3 more rounds, or the final 3 rounds of the first class season. So it'll be very interesting to see who puts their name forward to put pressure on Brooks. So I'm not going to call a name, Jonathan, but it'll just be interesting to see who puts pressure on him.
Thank you. Absolutely incredible show. I'll be tuning in definitely to the next program, no matter what time it is. And thank you for having me on today, guys. Absolutely phenomenal.
Spread the word throughout the Middle East, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Have a good night, Jonathan. Take care, Jonathan.
Thank you. You too, guys. Take care.
No problem.
Thank you.
Santoki, I promised Hakeem that he would be the last person. He came in the chat and said, please, can I come on?
Yeah,
His
go on.
exact words were, please, I've been dying to come on. I said, okay. So last person, people, we're going to do Hakeem, and then we're going to wrap up the show. Thank you for everyone in the comments. O'Shane says Casey Carty. Yes, O'Shane. I think Casey has got a chance if he makes some more runs in the first class season as well. Yes, Hakeem. Let me bring him on. Hakeem, yes, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going, guys?
All good, all good. Where you calling from, Hakeem?
The States, Florida.
Fantastic. What island or country you repping?
Jamaica.
Okay, come through, Hakeem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mash bringing his people for this episode, man. But Hakeem, let's talk on Pollard. What do you think Pollard's legacy is to West Indies cricket, and were you a fan of him?
Yeah, I was always a fan of him, not so much as a batter long term, but as an all-round cricketer. I think there's two feelings I have towards Pollard. One, the player himself has to take responsibility for the shortcomings in the West Indies as far as a West Indies cricketer, being one day and T20, because he has had some good moments, some great moments. Obviously, us winning the T20 World Cup twice, and also some very good moments one day, but not consistently. And for somebody, and the Pollard news actually shocked to me now, because I actually just signed on to YouTube, see you guys. I was like, Pollard gone. I was like, oh, let me listen to this. And a friend of mine, actually today I was watching the IPL because he played today, and he messaged me and he was just like, even you just said him being the weight, him having on the weight now, he's still probably the most athletic cricketer at the IPL, or top 5 at least. You know what I mean? And that's him being in his 30s, slightly bigger, you know. And I think that's where I'll say the player himself probably has to take some responsibility. But I think it's just the structure of the cricket itself. Like, when I look at Pollard, when I look at Dre Russ, when I look at even Dwayne Bravo, 3 players I'd say with similar skill sets as far as what they can do. And I just feel like 3, I'm not going to say wasted career, because I don't like using that term, because these guys work hard, you know what I mean? But I just feel like 3 players who really, when we're looking at, are talking about all-rounders, had the talent and ability to be a lot more consistent playing for the West Indies than they have been. You know what I mean? So even if with Pollard case, it might have been just the one day or the limited overs, but obviously for Dwayne Bravo, like all 3 formats, he should have been, to me, like one of the all-time greats. You know what I mean? So that, as far as Pollard, I think that's that's where I feel with him as a player. As a captain, I was a bit surprised when he got it at that stage from Holder, to be honest with you. But I think, given the whole COVID and everything, I think he did a steady job. You know what I mean? I can't fault him at that point. He did a steady job. You could see some of the newer players in the team looked up to him. You know what I mean? The leadership was good. You know what I mean? I even watched some of the games he captained for Trinidad in the limited overs tournament last year. And obviously they were overwhelming favorites given the squad and everything, but you could really see the leadership in him, something I hadn't really seen before, besides him playing for the Mumbai Indians. So on that aspect, I think he did a good job. But for a career, as far as West Indies cricket, I would say underachieved, but a lot of it has to do with the structure and, him himself as the player, So that's just me with Pollard, But I feel like we can mirror the same thing for Pollard for half of the players, or half of the most talented players in that generation. Because Sammy wasn't as talented as Pollard, Dreros, or Bravo, but to me, Sammy underachieved as well. You know what I mean? So we could level that same criticism or view for a lot of the players of that past generation.
So it's very interesting points, Hakeem. And I think Santoki, what I would just say in response to Hakeem and what that possibly raises is, if we take Pollard's career through the late 2000s, then the 2010s, etc., maybe the argument is it's not so much that Pollard and that lot underachieved personally, which you could argue they did, but the structure can't allow you to overachieve. If that makes the structures of West Indies cricket. So even if you look at the modern day now, let's use Hetmyer as an example. Hetmyer currently has played Test cricket, averages 28, has played ODIs, has averages 35. But when we look at Hetmyer's skill set, he should be much better than that. True. So if you then mirror that to Pollard in his early career, we look at what they've done, and it's easy to look at the raw numbers and go, wait a minute, you underachieved, but maybe actually the player, but maybe actually it's just wider than that. And sometimes we can focus on what the player did or didn't do, but the one common denominator is the structure and underachievement.
Definitely structure before Santoki chip in, because before I moved to the States, actually, when I was 16, I used to play for Jamaica under 15. And so watching cricket now, I see a lot of the guys who I used to play with trying to break into the West Indies team or playing for the West Indies team. So John Campbell was a few years older than me. So, but I remember playing against John Campbell. I remember playing against Jermaine Blackwood. You know what I mean? So a few of the guys who are trying to break in, even in the Jamaica setup now, a few of the mainstays were like Merchant. I actually went to Manchester High, and Merchant was the captain before I started playing there. You know what I mean? So a lot of the guys are still trying to break in. And even though it's a tough process, as we've said, the system doesn't allow, because my father, just like you guys, has watched West Indies in the glory days. You know what I mean? My father used to go to Sabina Park to watch Viv Richards and Courtney Walsh and all of them, man. And his biggest thing has been throughout the time is, even though the English complain now about the county cricket being lacking or whatever, our 4-day system or our system out here as far as first class cricket is lacking badly. You know what I mean? Because somebody will play the 2-day tournament in Jamaica, right? I'd say John Campbell. See, and I don't want to pick out John because, you know, whatever, just using him as an example. He will play the 2-day cricket or the 2-day tournament in the West Indies, in Jamaica, right? 2-day, 4 innings. So think about that. 2-day cricket, right? Saturday and Sunday. And to get a winner is 4 innings, right? So he will bat an hour and a half. Same face 60 or 70 deliveries. And he'll make 50. Or if he faces 120 deliveries, he'll make 100, right? And then he gets picked to play for Jamaica at that 4-day level and still makes 100 in about 150 deliveries, right? Obviously, the level goes up, the batting gets harder, right? So concentration-wise, he has been used to making 100 after 150 deliveries. Now playing for West Indies at international level against the best bowlers, right? After 150 deliveries, him only on 45 or 55, and the concentration go from there. So the system itself is lacking in the fact that it doesn't expose the guys to opportunities, as well as the players needing to mentally prepare themselves and know that, you know what, this is the system, but I'm going to do what I have to do to hone my talent and be the best version of myself. And then obviously financial reasons, I can't blame a man for wanting to feed his family. Yeah. So I'll never oppose the IPL or the PSL or the Big Bash and all that stuff, because at the end of the day, somebody have to provide for them family. And a lot of the money is life-changing money, you know what I mean? So that's just the process. It's just finding the balance and finding what will propel the cricket itself.
I think that's the thing with West Indies cricket. We've never had a system in and of itself that can develop players to be at a world-class level. As you said, the previous generation, Clive Lloyd with Richards, they played county cricket to develop. Kieron Pollard developed in spite of the system. He kind of, IPL and franchise leagues have taught him how to become a world-class T20 player. So we've never had the financial resources or just the people to kind of be able to create a system that allows players to stay in the West Indies and develop to an international level. They've always had to go somewhere else. Obviously, because county cricket's now closed off to most West Indian cricketers, that's why we struggled in the test arena. But we'll always see West Indians reach a certain level in T20 cricket just because there's so many options available in franchise cricket. And they'll learn through that rather than learning in a Jamaica or Guyana, as you said, because the systems just aren't there to help players. And unfortunately, I don't see that changing anytime soon. That's a problem that's always going to exist in the Caribbean, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Listen, Hakeem, thank you for coming on. You know, we're going to have to call a close here. We've gone much longer than we thought we were going to do, but much appreciated for coming on and sharing your insight.
No, man, big up. Thanks for you guys. You guys are one of the trailblazers. Being in the States, because I don't have access to a lot of the cricket naturally. Like when I used to live in Jamaica, like Sportsmax used to show every cricket, you know what I mean? So just in the States, like ESPN will show the West Indies home games and stuff like that. So most of the cricket I'll watch is like highlights, and now they show the IPL and stuff like that. But you guys definitely give a lot of insight and stuff like that. So I look forward to the podcast. Trust me, I'm very good at, even when you guys had Jerome Foster on for the 4-day thing as the Jamaica rep. Like I used to play cricket with Jerome Foster. Yeah. We used to, he was like 2 years older than me as far as grade school and stuff. So I know him and stuff like that. But yeah, big up guys. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks for coming through, Hakeem. Much respect. Yes.
Right, well, A lot of opinions, I think generally the consensus is Pollard deserves our respect and his contributions have been great to West Indies cricket. But Mash, you said we always say, we'll do 45 minutes on the show, but we've always got to talk the talk. So we've gone over. But Mash, do you want to wrap it up? Final words on Pollard.
Yeah, people. Ultimately, another. I'm not going to use legend, but another West Indian great in so much as contribution to the all-round aspects of West Indies cricket and the way that West Indians and West Indies cricket is viewed has departed from the international arena. You lot know how we are on Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We always want to give people their flowers when they step away from West Indies cricket because everybody has contributed in some shape or form. And like we say, I think Kieron Pollard is larger than life, and his contribution is more than just what he did as a captain over the last 3 years. His contribution is about how so many youngsters in the region see him as a trailblazer in a particular format of cricket, somebody who through his foundation has helped players develop, somebody who through his captaincy has shown someone like a Nicholas Pooran how to be an effective international captain. Yes, Pollard didn't do it in a way that made him universally accepted around the Caribbean. Yes, he could be quite confrontational, for want of a better word, because he knew his own mind. He spoke his own mind and said what had to be said, even if he knew it wouldn't be liked by people. So we have to big that up. We have to respect Pollard for that. The baton now passes, we all assume, to Nicholas Pooran. And as ever, Santoki, we do what we always do on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We rally and we keep going. But Kieron Pollard, thank you. So, ladies and gents, that's been the live show. Obviously, not all of you could join us live. I'm sure some of you are now watching this back on the retake. So if you're watching it back on the retake, leave your comments below, because not everybody will have been able to join us live and have their comments responded to, etc. So do comment below, press like, press subscribe to Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You know how we do. We go to our YouTube channel. We've always got content. Go and download the podcast. We've always got content going. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.